I don't need faith in myself. I have evidence. A little over a decade ago, after I had just graduated with my master's degree in piano performance, I sort of looked around and thought, now what? I loved film and game music, so naturally I thought, well, maybe that's something that I could get into. But I didn't even know anything about that galaxy, much less that world. And unfortunately, I'm also from Mississippi, which I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but it's not exactly a bastion for entertainment and arts and music. So, as anyone would do these days, I took to the internet, and there I pretty much learned a couple things. The first thing was that it's about who you know and networking, not about your work at all. Music has nothing to do with it, right? And secondly, I learned that I pretty much had to move to LA so that I could take random, unsuspecting directors out for coffee for some reason. And I'm not gonna lie, that all sounded terrible to me. But if that's what I gotta do, that's what I gotta do. I've got a dream, and that's what I need to do to actually make it come to fruition, so fine. I had my business cards made, like I heard that you were supposed to give out at all these fancy director parties. I started to email relatively local film directors who were doing things independently in, Atlanta or New Orleans, places that were kind of close. I went to a couple of film festivals where I felt about as out of place and miserable as I've ever felt in my life because I knew no one and I had done nothing to prove myself as someone who belonged in those places. I even took a trip out to LA where I guess I thought I would pick out the coffee spots where I would take these hypothetical, fictitious directors that I had no idea how to meet. There was just one problem. None of these things mattered. My biggest issue was that I had no work to show. The only thing I had to show were these hastily made Vistaprint business cards, which that is me, Jameson Nathan Jones, music for film and media. And unfortunately, I had done no music for film or media at that time. Put yourself in a director's shoes for a moment, and you might be able to see why they were hesitant to hire me for projects that they had been working on for months or years and poured all of their creativity into. So I was lacking at two things, really. Skill at the craft itself. I could compose, but I had no idea how to do it to picture. Really didn't know that much about production. And then I was also lacking in proof that I could actually do the jobs that I was trying to get. I had nothing to show. And for the next couple of years, I tried desperately to get work in this way. I just thought you had to just stick this period out for, however many years until it just worked. Somebody just gave you an opportunity. After all, I needed that work to prove that I could do that kind of work. And I think that this is a place where a lot of us find ourselves. Why won't someone just give me a chance? If they could, I could show I could do it. And for me, especially since I had spent most of my life in the academic world, I was still waiting on someone to give me an assignment. But none came. Not one. Nothing ever happened. Fast forward a few years to January of 2016. I had just torn my left labrum in my shoulder while weightlifting, and I was pretty down. This was like a low point in my musical life. I was in a sling for about 6 weeks, couldn't really play piano or organ, wasn't writing a lot, and as you may know as a creative person, when you stop creating, you kind of spiral downward, right? I could, however, play a lot of Fallout 4, and I did do that. I felt pretty directionless, pretty hopeless at this particular point, and was pretty much ready to give up on getting into that world ever. But one day, after I struggled to open the milk to pour myself a bowl of Cheerios with one arm in a sling, I sat down and turned on YouTube. I like to watch, gear reviews, stuff that I thought I needed at the time to make this kind of music, and of course, other artists and composers' studio tours, where they showed off all of the fancy toys that they had. Still like doing that, to be fair. And I just happened to stumble across this tour of Olafur Arnald's studio. And that video changed my life. It totally changed my outlook on how I viewed all of this.
This is my spaceship. And I work on Pro Tools pretty much all the time.
Not only was I exposed to a completely new style of music that I didn't even know existed, coming from the classical world, just wasn't aware of it, it was also just a light bulb moment for me in shifting my perspective in the way that it needed to be shifted at that point in my life. Olafur Arnald's apparently was scoring films, but it didn't seem like it was because he was going to some independent filmmaker and handing him a business card and saying, hey, Whatever you want, I'll do it. Seemed like directors were actually coming to him. And I was like, what? How can this be? They wanted him to sound like him. They wanted his artistic voice to use in their film because he had spent the time establishing what he wanted his voice to be, what he wanted to say as an artist. He had a sound, he had a voice, and he did it by making his own music first.
Yeah, every time kids ask me like how can I get people to listen to my music, it's like the only answer is don't wait for someone to just discover you by some magic accident. That, you hear stories of that, but that is actually not how it happens. It's super hard work and it's being proactive. Do stuff yourself and not wait for someone else to do it for you.
So this got me thinking, maybe I can do something like that too. Of course, I was very naive at the time. I really thought I'd be collaborating with Olafur Arnalds, within a few months, but sadly, he still won't return my calls. But maybe if I just focused on me for a while, spent time learning the technology that I wanted to use to do film scoring in a way that was conducive to me making my own music, which, whatever that was going to be, I still had no idea at that time. But if I could practice on my own stuff, then I could use those tools as a means for my own creative expression. Maybe I could just spend more time making the music that resonated with me. And that would probably also come across to the audience as well, that I was really passionate about it and was really enjoying it, really wanted to do it, which is going to draw in more of an audience. And maybe this kind of cyclical thing could take hold. And while it takes a long time for that cycle to kind of pick up momentum, I could also be kind of shoring up the two biggest deficiencies that I talked about earlier. I would develop those skills I was lacking by constantly working on my own stuff. I wasn't waiting for projects to come in because I had a vision and a goal for myself. I had my own projects, my own deadlines to keep, because they were mine. I was making the assignment for myself. And two, I would have tangible proof that I could produce something, I could finish things. And hopefully, as I continued to get better, those things would continue to get better as well and would eventually indicate some sign of quality. And if that resonated with the right person, say a film director, who wanted that kind of sound for their film, they might approach me to work on it. And that actually happened. People did find my music. Some of them were directors, some of them hired me to work on their projects. I've gotten opportunities that were a result of me not waiting for opportunities to come. And it's also kind of a beautiful thing if you use this approach and start to gain some momentum with it, because those directors are coming to you because they like you. They like the sounds that you like to make, which encourages them to ask you for things that you already like making, which means that the work is better. So it's kind of a beautiful marriage if you can be approached rather than always approaching or begging, as was the case in my early days, for other people to, take you on and then you'll just do whatever they want, right? It's like you're desperate and they can sense that. If you are desperate, they can sense that. As life has gone on a little bit, I actually discovered that I enjoy just recording and making my own music and releasing it into the world more than anything else. So even more than working on films in a lot of cases, I enjoy just writing for myself. And since I've gained a little bit of a following at this point, I'm able to do that. I would have never discovered that if I had continued to wait for opportunities to come. I might have eventually gotten lucky and had some director give me a chance out of the blue, but I would have never discovered that I really enjoy making my own projects, working on things that are just what I love doing. It's been a really sort of beautiful self-discovery process that I would have never gotten to if I hadn't gone through this entire journey and process. Now, I know all of our goals are different and all of our paths to attempt to get to those goals are different, but I do think it's kind of universal that if you consistently do good work, people will come and find you and they will appreciate what you do. They will appreciate who you are as an artist. And I've never scored a big blockbuster motion picture or anything like that. I don't profess to have done that. But I have been able to get jobs, and I've really enjoyed working on those jobs with people who are passionate about doing what they do and who enjoy the fact that I'm passionate about the kind of music that I make. And that's just a wonderful sort of creative marriage. In a world where there's probably more helplessness and hopelessness and fear and anxiety than ever before, I think it's really important to remember that you don't have to wait for someone to give you an assignment. You don't have to wait for an opportunity. This is more the case today now than ever. Thank you, Internet. I never left Mississippi, and I've been able to get these opportunities because I made my own opportunities. So I hope that this inspires you or encourages you in some way, if you're at that kind of low point that I found myself in all those years ago, to just start making. That's the best thing that you can do, is create your own proof. This video started out as a newsletter article, which I wrote a few weeks back. And if you'd like to sign up to that weekly newsletter and get some of these kinds of topics, as well as topics about composition and the artistic process, creative process, you can sign up to that newsletter as the first link in the description down below. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.